Hi, Jen.
Hi, Stephanie. How are you this morning?
I'm good. And I come with two recommendations for anybody who is a cat lover. What a way to start. I was thinking about this
Yes.
earlier today. I thought, oh, nope, I'm going to bring it to the table on our chat because in the last month, I've been done two things differently. And I feel
Yeah.
like I can't hoard this knowledge. I have to share it. Knowledge number one is you have to go to the catladybox.com. They have a
Yes.
subscription that is amazing, but you can, if you're following like their past subscription boxes, you can buy their things. And
Mhm.
I just want to show you my shirt for the day. You ready?
I love it.
Cats
That's
are
like
greater than people. And I got it for
that's at least the
$7.
third one I've seen of yours. How
For
many did you
free.
get?
I think I have 8. Well,
Every
they have
week, a
this
different
like
one.
confusion of the sale. So I don't know that you can get them as cheap
Mhm.
now, but I was like $7, I'm getting a new wardrobe. And I love it. The second tip that I have to share, and Jen, I think you have this. Oh, you do have this. We've talked about it, but your son broke yours. Every cat lover
Yes.
and cat owner needs a Roomba. We just got
Yes.
ours working like this week, and I'm like, I need one for every floor of the house. I've
Now,
decided.
do the cats ride on the Roomba?
No, they're scared of it, and I hope they stay that. I hope they stay away from the Roomba. But I woke up this morning, Jen, with no cat hair or dog hair
Nice.
or crumbs
Nice.
or anything on the floor. So I'm having way too much fun. And I thought anybody out there, not just cat lovers, but although I do love the box and the t-shirts. And this one, the color is so fun and it's
That's
just
a great color.
they just all their shirts are extra comfy. But
I
then
love
that
the
means
soft shirts. Those are just the best, right?
everything of theirs is superbly soft. I've just been enjoying it. So that's my
Fantastic.
tip of the day.
Love it. I love it. That's
I should have
awesome.
had my cat mug, but today I got up early. I've already drank all my tea. I'm on to water. You've seen
Me
my
too.
I've showed you my water as
Your
big as
your
your head.
giant water bottle. Are you drinking it?
Yeah, I'm not doing as good as I want to, but every day is a new day for new opportunity, right? And I don't get myself down because I'm telling myself like everything I'm doing is more than what I did. And
Yes, right?
I think that's like relevant when we're thinking about New
It
Year's
really
resolution.
is.
Yeah, or just life or just
Yeah.
writing a book and everything.
Small steps. Yeah. And honestly, as writers, we sit at our desks a lot. I mean, any kind of knowledge worker, you're at your desk. And the more water you drink, the more you have to get up to go pee. So it's actually really good to get you up from your desk.
Oh,
Um, so it's a benefit on many, many levels. So definitely drink as much water as you can.
yep,
That's
yep.
my advice.
I'm
It gets
finding
you up and walking around.
it does. I'm finding I like having my big thing because it tells me how much I need to drink in the day, but
Hmm.
I will drink more if I pour it into a cup. I don't know why. I think maybe
Interesting.
it's this concept of proportionality, and I see, oh, well, I took a sip
Mm-hmm.
and it was just this much, but I can look at like a glass. I'm like, "Ah, I can get
I
that
can
in a
get through that, right?
easy
Perspective.
perspective.
Perspective makes a big
Always
difference
brilliant.
in a lot of things. Yeah, it's very, very true.
It
Yeah.
is. So
It's
what's
the
that
more
kind
you can break something into a small step, the better, right? So, like,
always
that's why I had that, why I titled my book, Eat the Elephant, because writing a book seems like such a big thing. And so being able to break it down into small steps is going to make it so much more doable.
it is, and that's what we've been doing in this series of our Beyond the Page topics, is really trying to say, like, how if this is a goal of yours, if you have a single goal, like, what is it that you need to do to get moving there? But before we go into that, before we press record, you were telling us about, like, the ocean of your backyard. I
My
think
backyard is a lake.
I think it's coming this
Yes.
too.
The atmospheric river. I think we're supposed to actually
Um,
get a little bit more rain tomorrow, but more scattered showers. But we got Sunday, we got 3.25 inches, which we only get like 7 to 9 inches the whole year.
right, like,
And
that's
that
not
was our
normal in your world.
no, that was like our third storm too. So the ground was already saturated. So there's no place for the water to go. You've got how slides, hillsides just
Mudslides, stuff.
sliding, retaining walls falling, trees uprooting. It's just we're just not used to having this much rain,
Wow.
and our ground is really hard. And so it does not absorb the water well. There's just not a lot of places for it to go.
Yeah.
And so it's been a real challenge. So
Well, I hope it's
yeah.
soon. I know it's headed our way. I can't say this loud when my kids are home because they flip a lid, but we have, tonight, we've had lots of tornado warnings and watches. In
Yeah.
fact, the other day, I don't know if it was between when we chatted last or not, but on the way to school, we get an announcement on the phone, that the kids have to come, when they like run inside, and parents too, when you get to drop off, everybody needs to go in the basement immediately. And so there was a
Mm,
tornado warning in the area where the kids were. So I call my
scary.
husband, and he's like, no, I'm driving to my patient's house. I'm all good. I'm like, Corey. And then I get off the phone, and we live about 8 minutes or so from the school, but in a different county. And I didn't hear, Jen, like any alarms or anything. So I'm just looking outside going, oh, I guess it's raining. It's not a big deal. And I swear, I think I lived through a tornado. It was,
Oh
I mean,
my
I
gosh.
probably didn't, but it surely felt like it. The wind started coming sideways. The
Mm,
outside turned white, like complete white. And it was like the
weird.
fastest 30 seconds for me to get from where my office is into the basement. And I
Hmm.
called my mom. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I think you're fine, because she was watching the news. And I said, I don't know that we are fine, but nothing happened. But it was scary. I know you've
Yeah.
got disasters before, and tornadoes freak people out that don't live there, but we're gonna have some tonight probably.
Yes. Yes. When I lived in the Midwest, we lived through a few tornadoes, and they're slightly terrifying. I will take earthquakes over tornadoes every day, personally. I just would.
Yeah, until California falls off into the ocean, Jen, then you might change your mind. Then you might
Yeah.
change.
Oh,
Don't worry, that'll happen in generations to come, right? Not I
yes.
actually was
But
talking, but it could happen. Like, I mean, it could just one day you wake up and you're floating.
that would be really something. That would be something.
That would be a book. You would have fodder for a new.
Well, and that's the thing, right? And this is, I've been thinking a lot about creativity and where a lot of this comes from, and not just in fiction, but in nonfiction as well. And it's a great place to take those fears and those what ifs and all of that imagination, right?
Yeah.
And put it into a story. Like, especially if you have an imagination that can really spin things out to worst case scenarios,
Yeah.
you can just run with that in your books. So in fiction, of course, you would put your characters through all these things.
Right.
If you notice, my books always have big wildland fires because I live in that kind of country. But even in nonfiction, whatever you're writing about, whether it's memoir, whatever, your reader is going to have some anxiety around your topic and have
Right.
some concerns, right? And you can take that and say, yeah, let's talk about the stakes. What happens if we don't change our lives? What happens if we don't make positive change?
Yeah.
And so you can use that as well. So it's a great place, very
Mhm.
therapeutic actually, to kind of unload all of that into your writing. And of course, many people talk about just journaling and all sorts of things that can be very helpful. But yeah, it really is a great way to help get it
Mhm.
all out there, because you really can't control,
I have
Mother
a feeling
Nature.
Zan will put hurricanes in her books.
Yeah. Zan
'Cause
has
she
lived lots of different places, so
yes, she has.
she's experienced all sorts of weather.
And it's funny because, I was talking to Sandy, our web developer, the other day, and when I was living through this tornado, because I call her usually when I'm going to pick up the kids, either call you or her, Jen, so it's one or the other.
Mhm.
And I was talking to her about this tornado situation, and it opened this conversation of we get comfortable with what we are around. And so to
Yes,
me,
very
a
true.
hurricane is terrifying. Are you kidding? An earthquake would be terrifying to me, not because of anything else except I think of the worst case scenario, which to me, a tornado,
Right,
I mean, it's not fun, but I'm prepared,
right.
and I kind of think that worry that we deal with just with anything, when it's something that is unknown, it spurs these feelings of uncomfortability. And when you think about that and what you're trying to do in your bucket list or this life goal that you have, right? Like this idea that has populated in my brain the last couple of years is you don't know until you know. When you know, you can't unknow. I feel like that's like
Mm,
scary when you don't know something. But then when you know
yes.
something, then you're like, all righty. I can get
Yes.
a basement and prepared for the tornado. Okay, I know what to do when a hurricane comes. Okay, if I float in the ocean one morning, life will be fine. Whatever in this world. But I think that it has a lot of relevance in
Mhm.
book writing, book publishing, and book
Yes.
marketing because it's just scare. It's just fear of the
It's
unknown.
very scary because
Mhm.
it is unknown, right? It's very unknown. You're
Yep.
putting yourself out there, you're putting your emotions out there,
Yep.
and you're opening yourself up to criticism. Nobody loves that. And
No.
so it can be very difficult. You have a lot of things working against you
Yep.
with the writing. And again, I think to going back to the giant water bottle thing, a book a lot of times feels like that giant water bottle.
Mhm.
And then writing it and then marketing it and like
Right.
all the things you have to learn as you go along, it all feels like, oh my gosh, it's this giant thing. And so I think one of the things that
Right.
we can do to help you with that is break those things down into small pieces. What is the first step? Make that first step. And this is why, I've talked about this before, James Clear's Atomic Habits,
Oh,
because
love
he
that.
talks about how ridiculously small can you make this? So
Oh,
it's a
yeah,
no-brainer to do it, right?
absolutely.
And I think I've thought about that a lot as I'm getting back into my exercise routine after having my hand surgery and everything, and thinking about all sorts of how do I make this easy until it becomes a habit, till it becomes a routine. How do I make it easy? And that's what we want. We want yes, you over time you'll
Mhm.
increase it so it becomes more productive. But the main thing is to get it in there and get the habit going. So and once you do something, some of that fear goes away. Because you're like, okay, I did that. I
I
can do
did
that
it.
again. Right.
Congratulate
Hmm.
right, right. Well, and I think that's a really beautiful, conduit and kind of a directional focus to our topic today, which if last week we talked about this is your year to write your book, and I want that to be that for you. And I had several people reach out to me about it actually saying, "You're right." And I said, "You just have to declare it. Own it and declare it." And once you do, then laser focus happens. Your iPhone hears you talking about it and things start populating in your news or whatever. But you're able to just be focused. And so if that's where you need to be there. Don't feel like you have to do all the other things. But let's say you've written
Hmm.
the book. Let's say the book's out or you're about to launch it. Today's topic is really about this is your year to sell books. And I know
Hmm.
that sounds so rhetorical, Jen. Like, duh, you wrote a book, we should sell them. But it is probably one of the hardest parts for authors because it
Right.
requires levels of vulnerability. And
Yes.
so one of the things that, and this is going to sound so duh. I have no other word to say than don't like duh. But to sell your books, you have to talk about them.
Right.
Like you
Yes.
have
This
to
is
talk.
very true.
You do.
And John Acuff, we've talked about him and his book soundtracks, and he
Mhm.
has written a lot of books about goal setting. He's doing a challenge group right now in Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you follow him on social media, one of the things he's been saying lately is that when you start something, you do something, you have a side hustle, you write a book, whatever, you
Yep.
need to talk about it a lot more than you think
Yes.
you do.
Yes.
I feel this one, right? I
Mhm.
hate talking about it. I always
No.
feel like, oh, people hear me all the time. But if you look at your social media feed, for example, it's full of so much stuff.
Yep.
It may seem your stuff will seem a lot because you see your stuff. But if you look at other people's stuff, how often do you really see all of their things? And so I still have people say to me, now, what do you do? And I'm like, I've been doing this for almost 9 years,
I
you
know. Well,
know?
okay, so you bring up a really valid point, and it's something I was just jotting down a couple of notes when you were saying that. I'm like, ooh, 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 I'd forgotten about these things. So, a piece of advice that I had recently received, well, a couple years ago, but it's so applicable to books and marketing your books and talking about your books. It's this concept of crossroads. Like the people that
Mhm.
are connected to you may not care about your message until something happens in their life where then they need your
Yes.
message. So if
Right.
you're not constantly, and when I say constantly, I don't mean every 5 seconds saying, buy my book. Did you buy my book? Here's my book. Buy the book, buy the book. That will fall flat. But if you're not
Right.
not on a consistent basis sharing your message, the people who will need it won't know about it when they need it. And I'll be telling
Right. When they need it.
yeah, I think that's selfish. I'm just calling it out, Jen. If
Mhm.
you took the time to write something that could help people and you don't tell people about
Yes.
it, it is selfish. And if you sit there with that, that thought, that one liner, you're being selfish. Nobody wants to be
Mhm.
selfish. Then it
Right.
shifts how you see it. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this because I'm saying, look at me. I'm doing
Yeah.
it because I have something of value that the world needs and people can be changed from.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. That's very true. You went to the effort to
Yep.
write the book, so
Yep.
you need to go to the effort to share it with other people because you never know. I tell people, world can go around a book can go around the world and impact people
Yep.
you would never meet.
Yep.
You have
Yep.
no idea how your message is going
Yep.
to help somebody else. You have no way to predict that.
Nope.
And so for you just to say, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter," you may be cutting it off from the person that needs it,
Mhm.
that could really be helped by it.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the process is you're sharing the information for the people that need it when they need it, which may not be right now. It
Exactly.
might just kind of float in the back of their head and then, "Oh, you know what? I vaguely remember something."
Yep.
So it's an ongoing process. We think, "Oh my gosh, I've talked about this book so much. Everybody in the world must know." And they're like, and then you have someone, did you write a book?
They don't. And you're not your target reader. So if you're annoyed
No.
by it, the people who need it won't. So I have two examples of things that has happened in the last 7 days that I think are like really cool and I have to share. One of them is last Friday, I was headed to the audiobook producer because I'm on the last leg. Jen, it's going to be soon
Yes.
for my audiobook of Make Your Author Impact to come out. And on the way there, I realized that the audio producer and I spend a lot of time together, and usually we don't eat lunch because we're so focused. And I'm usually hungry,
Okay.
and I know he's hungry. So I had driven past this bakery called My Favorite Muffin in our area. Delicious.
Mm.
You can't have it, Jen, because of gluten. I was gonna say
Story of
gluten
my
is
life.
Louisville, but I think that they might have a gluten option occasionally. But anyways, if you don't have gluten issues, you like your sugar, go there. They make little bitty muffins. Okay, so I got two
Oh.
baker's dozens, and and one for him and one for me. Well, I was thinking, how are we going to do this? So the lady that was helping me said, "Do you want it packaged in one box or in two boxes?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't know that was an option. What would be the purpose of two boxes?" This is the extrovert Jen in me, like thinking out loud and like, duh, why
Right.
would you want that? And she goes, "Oh, in case you like have different people eating it." I'm like, "Yes, I want two boxes." And because I'm really bad at negative space, I'm start talking and I don't mean to, but I was like, that's great because I'm headed to my audiobook producer and I can take a box back into the recording room with me and he can have them out there. And then if he eats all of his awesome. And if he doesn't, he can keep them. If I eat all mine, awesome, whatever. And so they're checking me out and they like not checking me out, but like paying for the they go, "So you're going to the audiobook?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they said, "Oh, what do you do with that?" And I said, "Oh, I'm the author. I'm recording the book." And they're like, "That is so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks. It's fun. No big deal." I go to leave. Now you got to know there was only one person that was in this little bitty bakery when I got there. When I left, there was like a whole line. But I noticed this man. He was an older gentleman, and I noticed him because he had a really cool iPad thing. And I was going to ask him about it, but he was focused on his coffee, his muffin, and his iPad. So I decided to not bother him with my extroversion. So I sat there and moved on and talked to the people behind the counter. Well, I go to leave. And the older gentleman goes, "Excuse me, miss." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "What is it that you do?" And I go, "Oh." And so I'm like, I write books and I help people market theirs and all this stuff. And I said, "Sorry if I was being loud." He goes, "No, no, no. I am responsible for getting speakers for the Rotary in Shelby County, and I would love for you to come out. We have authors there." And I go, "I live in Shelby County." He's like, "How funny is that?" So we changed and exchanged
Wow.
cards. That is proof. You have to talk about
Yes.
this.
One book at a time, right?
One book at
One
a time.
book at a time. You
Yes.
never know. You
You never
never
know
know.
who's listening. I had
Yeah.
noticed him, but I mean, if I would have just walked up and said, "Hey friend, I like what you're doing. Want a copy of my book?" That would fall flat. But he overheard
That would
the
be weird.
story. It would be weird. The other thing that happened this week was it was actually the same day. I got out of the recording studio and the producer was doing some editing. So I was just looking at social media and I saw on LinkedIn that somebody had tagged me in a post. I did not know this person directly, and I had very few shared connections. And also, I don't personally know any of them. So I didn't know this, but this guy had finished reading a book for the year and had given a kind of subpar or mediocre review and said that he was starting his second book. It was mine, and said he couldn't put it down. He's already 5 chapters in. He started that day.
I love it.
Jen, it's proof. You don't know who's listening.
You have
don't
no
know
idea.
who need your stuff. Like, you have to talk about it. Moral of the story.
Yep.
You have to do that.
It's true. It's true. My mom was when she was having her hip replacement surgery, they put the family in a waiting room and they have like a hospital volunteer who answers the phone and gives you the status update. And she was reading an author I knew, actually. And I carry bookmarks of my books in my purse with me, because when people ask, what do you write? It's just so much easier to hand them a bookmark, right? Instead of, they're never going to remember the name or whatever. You can do QR codes. My next set of bookmarks are going to have QR codes that go to my website.
I love QR codes.
Yeah, so easy. And so I said, "Oh, I love that book. I know that author personally. I've read that book. You must be a big reader." And she goes, "Oh, yes, I am." I go, "Well, I'm an author. Here's some bookmarks for you." And come to find out, she went to my church. I saw her one Sunday, and she came up to me. She goes, "Oh, I bought all your books." See, so you never know. You never know. But you figure if someone's a reader and they're reading in that genre, they're going to enjoy it. And so it's a great door. It's not creepy. It's just someone sharing. As a reader, I would have loved people sharing their book recommendations with me. So,
well, and the other thing is they might not be readers, but they may be a connection to readers or people who need your message. This is like, it was again planned, but it wasn't, these ideas, Jen. But just yesterday, I received a phone call, and I saw the phone call coming in, and I get a lot of spam. So annoying. So I usually filter my phone calls if I don't know the person.
Me too.
And I get the voicemail, and it is someone that I know, but it is the spouse of someone that I know who wanted to discuss with me about a speaking opportunity coming up. And so I called her back, and we chatted about a conference that they have going on, and they were looking for a keynote. And immediately she said, "Myself and my husband thought of you." And I was like, "Well, that's amazing. Thank you." And then she's like, "Well, I've read your book." Now, my first book came out in 2018. So we're talking like, what, 5 years ago, she read my book. And and I didn't know that it changed her, that she liked it that much or what have you. I didn't know that. But she was now a part of a board, and the board is doing an event, and the event was looking for a very specific speaker, and she thought of me. See,
wow.
And Zan,
you never know.
And listen, you don't have to be the only one talking about it.
Right.
Zan shares, her husband talks about it more than she does. Yeah, you do need to change that. But it's also extremely valuable when someone who loves you is also talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think that my husband does it too. He used to carry copies of his books in his car when he would go to pay and to sell them or to give them away or what have you. So but Zan, this is a prime example of like the next part is, if you are connecting with the people who can help you reach your target reader, they will go out and they will start talking about your message too. So who is it? Who's a complimentary service provider or someone else who is speaking your language and might be able to be a extension of you? Those people can help you sell books.
Yes. And I often say in the nonfiction world, I often use the example of like a financial guide.
What is up with that? You need to write a book about,
I don't know,
because you use it all the time.
I don't want to write a book about finance. But people, like, this is a thing people like really stress about, and it's a thing couples fight about, right? So a marriage counselor would be a good complementary provider for someone who's writing a book on finances, especially if it addresses some of that dynamic, right? That would be something that would be like a complementary. They would be helping each other with those referrals. And there's a lot of those kinds of things. If you start thinking about what your book might be about, that there could be some complementary people that would be like, oh, that would be a great resource for my audience as well. And kind of identifying, seeing how you can help each other out in those kinds of ways. Those can be a great way to be thinking about another kind of audience for your book.
I like that. And I like that when you think of it in that way, it's not that you're trying to take advantage of somebody or ask somebody to do something that doesn't make sense to them. You're actually providing value to them for them to be able to serve those people too. So like your example, right? Like they might that therapist might not have a resource like that. You are now
Right.
helping that therapist deepen loyalty with her clients because you are a solution to a struggle that they have, right?
Right.
So that is marketing in its finest. It's a win-win for everybody. It's not just to help you with the goal of selling books, it's to help you make that impact. So maybe, wiggle backwards and get a 360 view of your why, and that will help you
Mhm.
identify the right complementary service providers
Mhm.
that can help navigate it. And I also want you to consider too, you mentioned the one at a time book sale, which is
Mhm.
awesome. But you could also do the one to many book sale option.
Right.
And how does that work? How can you have somebody do a bulk book sale? Ooh, those are always my
Right.
favorite.
Right.
Always.
Yes. Who could benefit from buying your books in bulk,
Yep.
at a discount? Where again, maybe they're going to hand them out to their clients.
Mhm.
Maybe they have a group or something like that. There's a school or an organization or something
Yep.
that would benefit from that.
Yep.
This is great where even like memoir and more
Mhm.
personal can be really good for community groups, people that might be working through similar issues,
Yep.
things like that, where it could be a big
Mhm.
advantage to have that. That is definitely thinking outside the box, but there are definitely people who have um, and there's an author, and the whole thing is escaping me at this moment, but um, she was able to sell a bunch of her books to, I want to say, divorce attorneys. There was something in them. I can't
Oh,
remember if they were a finance or a
that's
emotionally
amazing.
healthy something. But anyways, for
Mhm.
whatever reason, divorce attorneys, this was a real complimentary service provider. They bought them as bulk. They handed them out to their clients, and it was a great, maybe it was on single parenting, I don't even remember, but anyways, it was something like that where it was an out of the box thing, but it was a perfect situation where someone said, yes, this would be a great tool for me to give my
Absolutely.
clients. I want to buy them in bulk. And
Mhm.
then when you do bulk orders like that, you can make some customizations, which is
Absolutely,
a
you
fun
can.
thing. Ingram
Ingram Spark.
Spark allows you to do
Mhm.
that. You can change the front page and make it a special custom edition, and
Which
that
is
makes
awesome.
it really fun to be able to do that for people.
Yeah.
If you want to be really crazy and do, you can raise money through a Kickstarter if you want to do some
Mhm.
really fancy different kinds of editions,
Mhm.
hardback or whatever. You can even, if you don't mind funding the money yourself, you can certainly do those kinds of things. Thinking about what your audience would really like, would there be a reason to do a leather bound or a
Yeah.
really cool jacketed hardcover or some sort of gold, imprint foil or something? I mean, you think about where your brain can go with this. There
Yep.
can be all sorts of really really cool options that you can do. You can do any of those things. You can do them
Yes.
if you would like. There's
The world is your
lots of choices
oyster.
out there.
It
Yeah.
is. So, one of the things that several clients that I've worked with over the years has found a lot of successes in the custom edition space is they might be going
Mhm.
and doing speaking engagements. So the people that pay them, or let me backtrack, the bucket of money in the budget to pay them to speak is usually a different bucket of money than specifics, logistical needs, or even advertising for the event. So
Mhm.
their speaker's fee might come out of one bucket, but they might
Mhm.
need tchotchkes at the event, right? And so you
Right.
can do a 250 bulk book sale discount so everybody can get it. And if
Copy.
they
Yeah.
want, I actually have seen several of my clients, they then add an additional fee to it if you want it customized. And they can
Right.
have the CEO of the company do a forward or something that is just for
Yes.
that event, a
For that
one.
group.
Yes, that has been really big. Another idea that I had, and man, Jen, I personally have not done this, made it work. I got so close years ago, and then I was stingy and I wasn't generous with the bulk discount, and I should have been. But one of these days I'm making it happen. We talked about the cat subscription box, for instance. They have
Right.
subscription boxes for everything. And
Right.
imagine if you sold 1,000 copies of your book to go in subscription boxes.
Yeah.
Or when I was in negotiation, I was actually selling ebook versions. And
Mm,
there was a way that you could do that that was really interesting. And so there
nice.
are things you can do, but it's about this concept of when you go bulk, you can make more by adapting the price point to what is in
Right.
alignment, but it helps you sell books. And really, at the end of the day, the goal is to get the books in the hands of the people.
Right. Now people know your name. You have other books,
Yes.
especially it's perfectly fine to sell in those kinds of situations where
Yeah.
you're not making money on the book. That is
Right.
not the point, right? You might make the money on the speaker fee. You might think of it as a marketing
Yeah.
expense. You're
Mhm.
getting your name out, you're getting exposure. You might get other speaking gigs.
Yep.
You might have other books to sell. There could be any number of things that would happen. So again, think about the fact that you're not necessarily going to want to get $20-$25 per book, right? You might want to say, no, I'm going to just do these maybe at cost, maybe a
Yeah.
little above cost,
Yep.
just as a great way to get my name out there. It's really one of the most effective marketing tools you can have. You think about how much money you can spend on marketing in other areas, that would cost you very little
Mhm.
for a really powerful marketing impact. So
Yep.
think of these kind of, be as creative as you can. There's all sorts of ways to
Yes.
think outside the traditional bookstore, bookseller place.
Don't be limited,
Um, are,
ladies and
are
gents.
there gift shops that you can sell at? Is there a local interest store? Is there some, what
Yep.
other connections you can make? Subscription boxes, like you were saying.
Yep.
All these other things where you can start thinking about things that might go with your book that could be complementary to that, that might be a unique way to present your book to a totally different audience. I think it's really fun. We're creative people as writers, and so put that creativity to your test and have fun
Yeah.
with it. See what you can do.
Throw out the normal box, create a new one. Okay,
Yes.
so the book of the week that I'm reading is a proof copy of an author that potentially I'll get the chance to work with, who has a deep, deep love of birds and has written a book about a
Fun.
sanctuary that she has done over the years in her community, where she has really cared for the animals out there that people overlook. And we do. I mean, anyways, I'm about a third of the way done, and it is oddly enlightening. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I actually grew up, Jen, with a fear of birds
Oh,
because I was
interesting.
attacked by them when I was snorkeling.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
and then it was bad.
wow.
But then when my grandmother passed away, she started sending me cardinal birds, and that became really
Mhm.
meaningful to me. So I've had a
Mhm.
new appreciation. But there was what I love about her book, even though it has a lot to do with understanding creatures and life that maybe we don't always understand, it also has a beautiful parallel to understanding one another. And there was a phrase in here that I thought was just really poignant. There's many. I have the whole thing underlined. It's insane. But I wrote at this part, it says, all this shows you that you can't know what will happen around the next bend. It's best to never ever give up. And she has this
Mm.
whole storyline that outlines how she fell in love with birds, why she did, the fight she had to go
Wow.
through to turn her home into a bird sanctuary, and how
Mm.
she went through some really challenging times in life, but didn't let that stop her. And I think that that's just really poignant advice in general. But when you're talking
Mm.
about selling your book, it's like walking up this hill. And I always say, right when you want to get off the hill and go backwards, you might be at the tip. Just one more
Right.
step and things could be easy. Big books, bulk sales could happen. A bookstore calls you. Someone wants you to speak. Someone posts about your book on LinkedIn. Somebody meets you at
Right.
the muffin store. Like, you just have to keep
You never
talking.
know.
You never
Yeah.
know. Books don't sell themselves. And people don't buy books, really. They buy connections with people.
Mhm.
And
True.
people connect with people. So for your book to make the biggest extension and reach, you have to be a part of it. I'm off
It's
my
true.
soapbox now.
It's true. Well,
Yeah.
and that leads right into our closing, which is authors, your words have power. You have power and your message has power. So we invite you every week to come join us and take that message to the page and beyond as we discuss all things books and marketing. Have a
Yay.
great week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.